Good evening, brothers and sisters. Our purpose during our time together is focused toward our brothers and sisters who work as meeting house and seminary custodians. We appreciate you and your dedicated efforts to keep our meeting houses clean and well maintained. As a result of your efforts, members can worship, learn, and teach in buildings that reflect the high standards of the gospel. Your good work also enhances the missionary efforts of the church, since our meeting houses and seminaries present a positive image of the church. For this, we are most grateful. Your work exposes you to chemical hazards that must be handled properly. The church has now developed a program to help you and your stake leaders minimize chemical risks. There are 2 binders for the church hazardous chemical program, and these will be referred to during this presentation. One is the meeting house written hazard communication binder. The second is the stake written hazard communication binder. Both have an essential role in the total hazardous chemical program. The following presentation introduces the program and will be supplemented by visits by representatives from your area office. Stake leaders should work closely with the area office representatives to assure that this program is implemented uniformly through the United States. Only changes required by state government agencies may be incorporated in this program. A signed record of attendance should be kept of this presentation, as well as other training on handling hazardous chemicals which custodians may receive. We appreciate your willing efforts to minimize hazards in the workplace. Thank you for helping to make this important program a success.
The Occupational Safety and Health Administration, commonly known as OSHA, has recently revised their hazard communication standard. By law, the church must inform its employees, including meeting house custodians, of potential hazards and materials they may encounter on the job. The church has developed a program in compliance with OSHA standards to help you, the custodian, and your stake leaders recognize, handle, and report all materials which could be hazardous. The stake president is responsible to see that this program is carried out, but he will rely upon his PFR or someone else he designates to follow through with the detailed administration. In the states where the multi-stake preventive maintenance program is in force, the preventive maintenance supervisor will implement this program rather than the stake presidents. The program information outlines the action that must be taken with detailed steps to follow in order to comply fully with the law. In the course of daily work, custodians use or have contact with a wide variety of cleaning and other products. The following church program is designed to help custodians handle these products safely and at the same time comply with OSHA standards. The church program has 5 basic phases. First, you will learn how to evaluate materials for potential hazards. Second, you'll be able to properly label all chemical containers with warning labels. Third, you'll maintain copies of material safety data sheets which are easily accessible to all affected custodians. Fourth, you'll participate in or provide appropriate information and training for all affected custodians. And fifth, you'll become familiar with the written hazard communication program for your meeting house. First, Let's find out how to evaluate potentially hazardous materials. Using the form titled Chemical Inventory, marked Exhibit Number 1, make an inventory of all chemicals associated with your meeting house, those currently being purchased, those on hand, and those now in use. List the product or chemical name, the manufacturer, and whether or not there is Material Safety Data Sheet, MSDS, on file for each. Later, you'll write in the date employee training was completed for that product. Each supplier or manufacturer should provide an MSDS for each product. If you don't have one, contact the supplier or manufacturer directly and request one. This request should be in writing, and a copy of the request must be kept in the stake hazard communication binder. Never rely on verbal information provided by a company sales representative. Insist on a printed company-produced MSDS. What chemicals are considered hazardous? For safety's sake, list anything containing chemicals that is used in the meeting house. Be sure to add new chemicals to the inventory as they're acquired. The second phase of the program is labeling all chemical containers with appropriate warning labels. This includes the name of the chemical, appropriate hazard warnings, and the manufacturer's name and address. If a chemical is transferred to new portable containers, be sure to label each with the appropriate identification and warning statements. Incoming containers of chemicals should already be labeled. Do not remove the manufacturer's label. Phase 3 is providing access to Material Safety Data Sheets, MSDS. See Exhibit Number 3 for a sample MSDS. Each meeting house should maintain MSDS in a binder for all chemicals used or handled. Each employee must be trained on how to read and understand an MSDS. The MSDS contains data on chemical identification, hazardous ingredient data, physical data, fire and explosion data, health hazard data, reactivity data, spill or leak procedures, special protection data, and special precautions. Each stake must obtain a full MSDS set for each meeting house of every item listed in the chemical inventory. Chemical vendors have the obligation to make these sheets available to all purchasers. Any MSDS that have not been received or are missing must be requested from the supplier who provided the chemical. Ask for them at once. Do not be satisfied with the promise to get them later. The law requires that the MSDS must be provided by the supplier when he ships or delivers his products for the first time after September 1987. If he doesn't send them, or should the stake lose them, please request them again in writing. Each meeting house is required to have on file a copy of the letters requesting any MSDS. These letters must be available for review by any state or federal inspectors. If the chemical supplier is unable to provide MSDS, do not purchase supplies from him. Put all of the MSDS into a properly labeled 3-ring binder provided for each meeting house and seminary building. Index tab each MSDS by the name that custodians will recognize. This could be by type of product, trade name, or chemical name, whichever the custodians would easily recognize. Advise each custodian in writing that this binder is available and where it may be found. This location must be readily accessible at all times during working hours and must be on the premises where the users work. A copy of the written notification to custodians must be included in the stake program binder. In case of injury, the information found on the MSDS could be needed by a physician, a hospital, or the Poison Control Center in determining proper treatment. Therefore, others should also know of this book's location. Please advise all persons generally receiving telephone calls for each meeting house where this binder is located. In an emergency, it could save a life. When the inventory has been completed, containers are properly labeled and the MSDS are in a binder located in a readily accessible place, you can proceed with training. Make sure that all custodians are trained appropriately concerning potential chemical hazards in the workplace. All custodians must receive training on the following subjects: their right to know, the written hazard communication program, warning labels, the availability and utilization of MSDSs, the hazards to which they may be exposed, the determination of the presence of hazards, and the means of protection available to them. The above items should be covered in the first General Hazard Communication Training Program. The General Training Program includes written materials and includes a self-test, which would become a permanent part of each employee's training file, a sample copy of which is in the training section of the stake binder. All employees receive hazard communication training, handouts, and other pertinent information from their supervisor or other management people. A record of all employee training should be included in each employee's personnel file as shown in Exhibit number 4, with a copy in the meeting house binder and the original in the stake binder. Documents for the hazard communication program are in the form of a self-test with a passing grade. Hazard communication posters should be displayed at each workplace. These posters identify employees' right to know and the person to contact for more information. Posters are available from chemical manufacturers and vendors. Supervisors are required to provide additional training concerning workplace hazards when chemicals with new hazards are introduced into the workplace. Process or equipment changes are made which could cause new or increased exposures. Employees are transferred from one work area to another where different hazards may be present or when a new employee is hired. In any event, an annual review of all chemicals with all custodians must be held. Other qualified persons, as designated by the stake president, may be assigned as instructor. Different instructors may be assigned for each session. Training should occur during the custodian's regular working hours. Special attention should be given each product one at a time. Safe use of each chemical should be emphasized. The custodian must learn how the product will affect personal health through use or misuse. Custodians must be trained not to mix one chemical product with another. A written log must be kept in each meeting house showing the date of each training meeting, who attended, what chemicals were covered, and the name of the instructor. This log must also include the signature of the custodians in attendance as proof that they were there, that they were trained, and that they understood what was taught. What about contracted workers? Upon initial entry to the premises, contract workers or their supervisor should be advised of safety regulations. These regulations should include the requirement that they must comply with all OSHA standards while working at meeting house facilities. Contractor employees are expected to take appropriate measures to protect themselves from any hazards present. They will be informed of any hazards to which they may be exposed in the working environment and will be notified of the availability of MSDSs for hazardous materials in the work area. The contractors will, in turn, notify the supervisor of any hazards to which they may expose employees and provide MSDSs for any hazardous materials they introduce. In summary, then, a training meeting or meetings must be held involving all custodians who could be exposed to hazardous chemicals. These meetings are to cover health and safety points, information regarding protective equipment, and first aid techniques from each MSDS. Phase 5 involves providing a written hazard communication program for each work location. The stake president and stake PFR should complete the stake written hazard communication program, which includes administrative materials, and a meeting house written hazard communication program for each meeting house in the stake. Samples of each written program are included in the binder for use by stake leaders as exhibits number 5 and number 6. Additional copies are available from the area office. The purpose of each written program is to describe how the OSHA Hazard Communication Standard requirements are met on stake basis and for each individual meeting house. The documents are for the meeting houses in the stake and should be made available to all employees. The stake written hazard communication program binder will be a clearly labeled separate 3-ring binder and made available to all workers, employees, and contractors. This binder will be kept in the stake offices. As a brief review, Section 1 of the binder details the stake program. See Exhibit number 5 for a sample section. Section 2 describes the meeting house programs. A complete copy of each meeting house written hazard communication program for each meeting house in the stake. Copies of Exhibit number 6 filled in. Section 3 is training materials, including information and records. Section 4 is quick reference materials. Section 5 is administrative materials and information. The meeting house written communication program binder will be a clearly labeled separate 3-ring binder and made available to all workers, employees, and contractors. The binder will be kept in each meeting house and will be divided into sections. Section 1 is emergency contacts, including a list of emergency contact telephone numbers, including the toll-free 24-hour 800 poison control number for the state. Section 2 is the meeting house hazardous chemicals program. See Exhibit number 6. Section 3 is material safety data sheets, MSDS, for the chemicals in the meeting house. Section 4 is written training records for the employees who work in the meeting house. And Section 5, other materials including additional information as may be necessary. The area office is available to assist with proper implementation and has other materials to assist stake leaders and will be requesting regular progress reports. The combined efforts of stake leaders and area office staff will assure timely and effective implementation of these requirements. The implementation of a hazard communication program for each custodian is essential. The entire process for the 5 elements explained above must be repeated each time a new chemical is introduced into the inventory or a new employee is hired.